Hello and welcome to How to Survive. My name is Joe and joining me as ever is Chris Morris. Hello, Chris. You right there, Chris? Good stuff. Nodding away there. Now, as any attentive listeners to the show will know, we were due to cover Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones this week, but there's been a change of schedule. Unfortunately, Chris became so scared while watching the movie that he jumped and bit clean through his tongue. The tongue was reattached, but the doctors say it will take at least a week to heal. So Chris is strictly prohibited from any movie criticism, nitpicking, or film survival chat. In the meantime, we've dusted off an old episode, which you may not have come across. The episode was originally released as The Treat in our Trick or Treat 2016. But it wasn't clearly labelled, as it was meant to be a surprise for you listeners. Well, the trick was on us, and it seems that one of the best movies from the past 10 years hasn't truly had its day in How to Survive Court, because nobody knows it's there. So we present now the original broadcast of our discussion of Jennifer Kent's 2014 horror classic, The Babadook. Enjoy it, and I'll meet you at the end to tell you where Chris really is and give you a few more updates. Enjoy! Welcome to the How to Survive podcast, Halloween special, the Trick or Treat Extravaganza 2016. I'm Joe, joining me as ever is Chris.
Hello.
Hello, happy Halloween to you.
Happy Halloween. It's our favourite time of year as horror movie fans, obviously.
Yep. And this is our first sort of thing we put out specifically for Halloween.
Yeah.
I think last year we did Halloween close to the date. You know, we love our fans so much. We're doing 2 extra episodes.
Not 1, but 2. That's on top of your regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah, trick and a treat, in keeping with the Halloween theme. And the way it will work is we will each ask each other, trick or treat, and then we will discuss a movie based on that choice. And we may have some other surprises along the way as well, being that it's a holiday.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
The spookiest time of the year.
All Hallows Eve. They call it a holiday in America, right?
Yeah. So that's because it's a vacation is when you don't go to work.
Right. So they...
I don't know. I know the question that you're fishing for. I don't know the answer.
Do they celebrate?
Please write in at HowToSurviveShow@gmail.com.
Yeah. From my experience of like movies in American culture, it's like a big deal to them, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a very American thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
almost as though we should have done the tiniest bit of research before we started recording this podcast on Halloween.
Halloween. I think last year when we did the Halloween episode, we said, like, what's it for?
Go back and listen to that podcast for more extensive Halloween chat. But yeah, Joe, as you said, it's trick or treat.
Yep.
So you're up first.
Okay.
Trick or treat?
Well, I know you as a bit of a slippery customer, Chris. So I'm going to go with a treat because I'm worried about what the trick might be.
Okay, well, I know you're a fan of horror.
Yeah.
That's why we do this podcast, after all. And I know you like good movies as opposed to terrible ones.
Yeah.
Terrible ones about alien invasions or sexual violence or undead lake dwellers.
Yeah.
So we're going to ignore all of those things and talk about a good film, Joe.
What is it?
It's The Babadook.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Where'd you get this?
On the shelf.
If it's in a word or it's in a look, you can't get rid of the Babadook. A rumbling sound, then 3 sharp knocks.
Babadook, dook, dook.
That's when you'll know he's around. You'll see him if you look.
You know, Chris, that's actually the first time I've seen the Babadook.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what did you think of The Babadook, Joe?
Pretty good, isn't it?
It's a very good film, yeah.
Yeah. Should we recap it for anyone who hasn't seen it or hasn't seen it lately?
I think so. Goes without saying, of course, that if you haven't seen The Babadook, now's the time to not listen to us spoil it all.
Yeah. And I mean, it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix in the UK, yeah.
And it is Halloween, so what better time?
Yeah, exactly. Watch it tonight.
Yeah, watch it along with us right now.
Yeah.
Or don't, and just listen to me.
Watch it on fast forward in the next 4 minutes while Joe explains the plot. Go!
Amelia Vanek is down in the dumps, Chris.
She isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
Again?
Her husband is dead.
She's always moaning, isn't she?
And as bad luck would have it, he died while driving her to the hospital to give birth to their son.
Okay.
Their son in question is now 7 years old, or near enough. And would you believe it, Chris? He's a tearaway nuisance who is showing signs of increasingly erratic and psychologically worrying behaviour.
Yeah, he's an advert for contraception.
Yeah. And a poster boy for horror movie child.
Yeah.
Young Samuel, Chris, he can't sleep at night, citing a pathological fear of monsters who might be lurking under his bed or in his cupboard or anywhere at all for that matter. As such, Amelia spends her nights reading him bedtime stories in an attempt to coax him to go to sleep. All of which is for nothing, as he still manages to keep her up with his constant fidgeting, wriggling and groaning and moaning. One evening, Amelia offers Samuel the chance to choose his own book from the shelf, because usually she just reads him the same book every night.
Mm-hmm.
And he chooses a book called Mr. Babadook. A story of all the bad luck, Chris. It's about a monster who comes into a young boy's bedroom and scares him literally to death.
Oh, no.
So Amelia...
That's the last thing they wanted.
So Amelia throws the book in the dustbin where it belongs.
Yeah, good riddance to bad rubbish,
Yeah,
Joe.
that won't be coming back, will it?
No. Thank God that's over.
Samuel is perturbed by the book and begins behaving even more erratically and even going as far as becoming violent.
Yeah.
He attacks his cousin at her birthday party, leaving his mother without a friend or family member left to turn to. Now increasingly isolated and sleep-deprived, Amelia is beginning to lose her mind. Completely unable to sleep, she begins to neglect Samuel's well-being, even going as far to tell him, "If you're so hungry, why don't you eat shit?" Quite a troubling scene.
Yeah.
Before long, the book that she threw away reappears in the house. However, the monster in the book has changed and is now a woman who murders her pet dog and then her child. Over the next few hours...
Ominous. Because she has both a pet dog and a child.
Yeah. And...
just in case anyone didn't get the significance of that.
Yeah.
It's not just a book about a woman.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the implication is it's her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just like a non-fiction book about an event that's already happened.
A diary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it also is worth mentioning that the tone of the book has kind of changed from like, oh, the scary monster's going to get you, to this scary monster is under your skin and is going to make you kill your dog and child.
Yeah.
Over the next few hours, or is it days? Because it all seems to blend into one at this point, because she's just in a perpetual state of awake.
Yeah, well, she's sleep deprived and her son is on sedatives because of his antisocial behaviour.
Yeah.
So between them, they have lost track of the flow of time, I think it's fair to say.
It's either day or night, no one really knows. And of course, Amelia, having lost sense of time, can't get any sleep. The more she tries, the less she can manage it. She's staying up all night watching movies, things like that. And she begins to see visions of the Babadook stalking her around her house, appearing to her from her cupboard or from the door. Eventually, she heads into her basement to find solace among her late husband's belongings, which she keeps down there. But she's surprised but gladdened when her husband steps out of the shadows. However,
that's where he's been for the last 7 years.
He quickly encourages her to murder their son, adding a layer of darkness to his apparent homecoming.
He's always doing that.
Over the next few hours, Amelia murders the pet dog and makes several attempts to capture Samuel, who repeatedly evades her. She finally gets the upper hand, but he strokes her face in a moment of sensitivity, and she comes briefly to her senses. A further visit from a kindly neighbour prompts Amelia to calm down even more, but she's still bent on being reunited with her husband at the cost of her son, basically. After chasing Samuel again, she overpowers him, but before she can do anything too permanent, the Babadook bursts out of the cupboard. She overcomes her terror and forces the Babadook down into the basement, locking the door behind it. Sometime later, with her wits regained and order fully restored, Amelia and Samuel appear to be enjoying a happy life again. The only oddity being an apparent need to take live worms into the basement on frequent occasions in order to feed the Babadook. And that's the Babadook. Good recollection? Is that how you remember it?
Yeah, it is exactly.
From like 2 days ago when you watched it?
Yeah. Well, the one thing you're forgetting though, Joe, is that the film depicts the true horror of having children, which is the fact that you can no longer even wank properly.
Yeah. She has a go, didn't she?
She does, yeah. In uncomfortable scenes.
Yeah. Oof. It's the whole thing's just like
unpleasant.
Yeah, it's deeply unsettling.
Yeah, I mean,
all the way through.
last week we did Kill List,
Mhm.
which is an unpleasant film for many reasons.
Yeah,
Hammers to the head, hammers
Yeah.
to the rest of the body.
exactly. Yeah.
This one, similarly, you wouldn't put it on at a birthday party, would you?
No.
To cheer people up.
No, it's not. I doubt it's many people's like movie to cheer them up when they're feeling a bit down.
Yeah. You broke up with your boyfriend. Don't worry. Come on around.
Yeah.
We'll get
Ben and Jerry's and a glass of wine,
and
yeah.
we'll watch the Babadook.
Yeah. Laugh a minute stuff. Yeah. I think it's on a double bill actually at the moment with Bridget Jones' Diary.
Yeah.
At the cinema.
Bridget Jones' Baby.
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
It's very good, isn't it? It's very, very good. I watched it in the cinema. Quite like Kill List, which we were talking about last week, and is similarly a very intense experience watching it in the cinema. But I think it's a very good film. I've seen it a couple of times since, most recently last week to watch it ahead of this podcast, and it's very good. Like the whole film just hangs together really well, and it's like a lot of great horror movies. It's making, or maybe a lot of great monster movies, the monster represents something bigger than just what it is physically.
Yeah.
So, you can go all the way back to like Godzilla being, representative of fears of nuclear
annihilation.
Yeah, and all that sort of thing. And you can trace that line of movie monsters all the way back to the Babadook.
Yeah.
To, being a representation, I believe, of depression and grief.
I don't think that's an unfair assumption.
No, it's fairly well drawn out, I'd say.
Yeah. I think she may even say that in the film. This Babadook is actually a manifestation of my grief and anxiety.
Well, there's that bit where she goes to see a kindly old man who goes, oh, that sounds like the Babadook. And he opens a big dusty old... No, it doesn't happen. But it's great, isn't it? What did you think? Because it was the first time you'd seen it.
Yeah,
You've been pestering me to do this film for a while. And it's not really a survival film,
No,
I think,
exactly.
because of the mental illness part.
Exactly. And it's more of a psychological than a, like, Jason Voorhees chasing you around with an axe.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
it's a monster movie, but the nature of the monster is not one that
well, it's similar in a way to It Follows.
Yeah.
As much as, like, it's more like a curse, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like a sort of something that's been visited upon her, or like, like it's.
Well, it is. I mean, it's depression, isn't it? And
it's representative of that. Yeah, like her. And I think like the whole film, like I said, it sort of hangs together really well in the sense that it starts off when she, even at the start, she's pretty run down and tired, and it opens with a dream of the night that her husband died.
Yeah,
and
so it already sets you off on a uneven kill.
And she's like worn out, but she like wears those like pastel coloured clothes, and everything's a little bit sickly and sort of bright and everything. And then as the film progresses, it gets so much darker in terms of like the colour and the lighting and everything like that, to the point where none of the lights are on in the house, even though it's the middle of the night. And it's it's literally dark. Yeah.
And it goes to even further into like showing her isolation, I think.
Yeah,
because like she'll look out the window and like her neighbour's just like, she's like staring at the neighbour, and the neighbour's just like watching TV. Like.
Yeah, and then she looks back and the Babadook stood behind her.
Yeah.
And then like there are some really good like touches as well, like when they're reading the book at the start.
Yeah.
There's like cricket noises in the background, like sort of insect noises, and then at one point she sees the way the book is going to progress. She can tell it's not going to be.
Like she flicks forward. Before you can read.
And she's like, "Oh, why didn't we read something else?" And he's like, "No." And as she says that, she shuts the book, and the noises stop really abruptly. And then as she opens it again, they start up it again. There's like little touches like that are really good, and like her voice gets progressively deeper as the film goes on. She starts off with a sort of normal Australian accent, quite bright and chirpy.
I was fishing down the lake earlier, caught a hagfish.
Yeah, she sounds exactly like that. Yeah. And then by the end of the film, she's like really guttural, sort of monstrous voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you eat shit? Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's just a very good film.
Yeah. Do you? There's a theory that I have, which I picked up on Chris.
Okay.
I'm an astute film watcher.
Yeah.
It mentioned that she at some point had a career as a writer.
Yeah.
And she wrote for magazines or whatever. And she wrote children's books.
Mm-hmm.
So do you subscribe to the theory that she wrote the Babadook book?
Yeah. Well, I think it's implied. It's like whether or not she it blurs the lines a bit between what you can take as real and not real. Because you could just say, oh, the Babadook's all in her head, but then her kid gets like pulled up the stairs and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. But no, I took that to be her dragging up the stairs,
right?
Because at the end in the bedroom, he just suddenly like throws himself against the wall.
Yeah.
And she's just stood there like.
Yeah, it's like she's watching an out of body experience or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's definitely one way of reading into it. Yeah. But I mean, the book is certainly a product of her, and like it would seem that she made it herself. There's also so the book is there in the house, and then she puts it in the bin, and then it appears on her doorstep again.
Yeah.
And this time she burns it.
Yeah.
And then she goes to the police, and there's a shot of her resting her hands on the desk.
Yeah.
And the policeman sort of looks at her hands, and she sort of like flinches them away and hides them. And they're sort of black.
Yeah.
And I think one way of interpreting that is that they're black from the ash of burning the book. But I always think it looks like ink.
Oh wait, so
it's like she's been it's from when she made the book. She's still got ink all over her hands.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely not a coincidence, like that the Babadook is basically comprised of her husband's belongings as well.
Yeah.
And like has this like looming sort of,
and it grows in intensity as it approaches the anniversary of his death.
Yeah. And then it literally takes the form of him.
Yeah.
And says, "You can bring me the boy. You can bring me the boy. You can bring me the boy."
Yeah. It's pretty unpleasant.
Which is like one of the best and most terrifying scenes in a horror film I think I've ever seen.
I think the part for me, we discussed this off mic.
Yeah.
But I said the most horrible part for me is when the husband steps out at the end of the film and he's like,
"We can be together," or whatever.
Yeah. But then he just starts saying like what seems like nonsense until you realise it's probably his last words.
Yeah,
like,
it's like,
keep breathing.
Yeah,
we'll
hold
be there
on
in a minute.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, that's really sad. And
Yeah,
then his head just slices in half.
Yeah. And it's not really great. Like, you don't see loads of blood or anything, but it's it's grim.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, is that the film, there's a body count of 0.
Yeah.
As well, if you don't count the husband who dies before the events of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't actually see it either. You see sort of implicit dream sequences.
Yes, exactly.
But it does a lot with very sort of, it's very like imaginative imagery.
Yeah.
To display things that have happened. Like, there's no gore and all that sort of thing.
No, it's more like just tension.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are some bits which are like sort of visually very shocking. Like, she kills the dog.
Yeah.
And there's a bit where she vomits a stream of like black oil all over the floor, which is pretty disturbing. Which again, like all of these things, they all contribute to the theory that it's not even a theory. It's like obviously the case that it's to do with her depression. It's like black things, black clouds, big looming black shadows, things like that. Black poisonous liquid. They're all sort of metaphorical things to do with depression that people talk about, or depression or grief. A looming. It's like having a black cloud over me. It's like all this sort of thing. So it's like when she's vomiting up this
all the light's gone out of your life. Sort of thing.
Yeah, like when she's vomiting up this black bile, it's like her trying to rid herself of her depression and all this sort of thing. Like, yeah, it's very grim.
How do you take the cockroaches?
Well, she sees them, and I mean, I think everything in the film is like she's falling apart, isn't she? Yeah. It's like every part of the film could be a metaphor for her.
Yeah, I guess
coming apart of the scenes.
If I said to you, how would you feel if like the walls of your house were infested with cockroaches,
Yeah.
you'd just be like going mad, wouldn't you? Like, that's really unpleasant. Like,
Yeah.
but she's imagining that's happening. It's
Exactly.
not.
Yeah.
That's like the world she lives in.
It's a harrowing film. Like the thing that always strikes me when I watch it is that it's exhausting to watch.
Yeah.
Like the first half of the movie, like you feel tired watching her. It's such a great performance by Essie Davis. And she obviously was acclaimed for it. But at the start of the film, you like, because Samuel is a nightmare as well. He's like the worst for the first 40 minutes. He is the worst movie child.
Yeah.
Like the most irritating, and like you want to kill him. Like you, like she, he puts you in the mindset of like, I wish my husband was still here and I didn't have to deal with this fucking annoying brat on my own.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the way in which it, like, it's like every scene is just set to the soundtrack of him going, Mum, look at this, I got the toys out, Mum.
Or he's like kicking the back of a chair in the car.
Yeah, like screaming and crying, and how, like, there's a bit where he like climbs on top of a climbing frame.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts abruptly to them in a car, like driving home from the playground because he's broken the rules by climbing on top of this swing set. And he's like crying and howling and stuff, and you're just like, oh, shut up. And like, this is like 10 minutes into the film.
Yeah. And you get there for about an hour.
Yeah.
But then very abruptly, I think it's the point it changes is probably when she tells him to eat shit.
Yeah.
And you suddenly go, look, that's pretty unpleasant.
Yeah. Well, and Samuel suddenly becomes like the protagonist.
Yeah.
And like a likable one as
Yeah,
well.
exactly, yeah.
It's really strange and like very cleverly done.
And the mother goes from being a sympathetic character to being like the villain.
Yeah. Well, she like there's a very good moment where she is in bed and there's scratching at the door, and she goes and opens the door and it's the dog, and the dog comes in and she closes the door, goes back to bed, and then the scratching on the door carries on, and she's like, oh shit, and then something comes in and she like hides under the covers, and then she peeks out at the ceiling, and like the Babadook crawls over the ceiling and then like jumps on her, and then it just cuts to black, and then the next scene is just her watching TV.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a bit like in Kill List, like we were talking about last week. There are scenes which are almost like non sequiturs, where it's just like, here's a creepy thing, and now let's just pretend it didn't happen. And you're like, well, did that actually happen? Is it a real thing? Like, what is happening?
Daydream?
Yeah, exactly. And so,
but that's the point where she goes mad.
Yeah, it's like that's the drop off point in her like decline in mental health, and then like from that point on, you get like the really weird, like manic and depression sort of switching with how she deals with Samuel. And then there's that bit which is really disturbing where she is watching TV and sees a news story about her murdering her son with a knife. Yeah. And then there's other stuff like where she sat watching TV and then she looks over at the sofa and her son's there dead.
And then
she like stands up going, and then he's just stood next to her, like, and he's
just like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
and then it pans around and she's holding a knife to him.
Oh, it's fucking...
It's so well cut, though.
Yeah. It's a fantastic movie. Yeah.
All right. Did you know Babadook is Hebrew?
Yeah.
It means he is coming for sure. Which, good to know. Bit of trivia there. Did you know also? Jennifer Kent, the director of the film, she holds the rights to the film, and she said that for no amount of money ever would she make a sequel.
That's that's very good.
For no amount of money, mind you.
For free.
If someone came for like...
How to Survive production. Babadooker.
Babadooker?
Yeah.
Like more Babadook.
Yeah. The Babadook 2 Babadooker.
Oh, what would it be about?
2 Babadooks.
2 Babadooks?
Yeah. Because they'd be real now.
Okay.
Because it's a horror sequel, so it'd have to lose
yeah.
any of the subtlety.
Yeah.
So they are actually real.
Yeah.
Like she runs out of worms one day, and then
it breaks out.
Yeah.
And it's like, I told you I want the worms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why can't you feed me some chicken instead?
And you get a full frontal shot of the Babadook, and it'd be like
Well, it's
flesh
like
peeling
Alien,
off his
and
face.
it's like Alien and Alien. It's called the Babadooks.
There's 1,000 Babadooks.
crawling out of the walls. A planet of Babadooks. We see the planet. We see the Babadooks' homeworld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sigourney Weaver goes in and the machine gun. How would you survive, Chris, against one Babadook?
Well,
Hard to do because
yeah. Well, as we were saying, it's not really a survive film, which is partly why I've sort of been reluctant to cover it.
Yeah, it fits in perfectly for this Halloween special.
Yeah.
We don't have to play by the rules.
Yeah. Well, one thing I would say is that they obviously live in a built-up area.
Yeah.
You know, suburbs of what seems to be an Australian city. You know, they're in a big house. There's lots of houses around.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in isolation. Their neighbour appears to know or have met the now dead husband.
Yeah.
So it's implied that they've lived there for some time. You know, like they lived there together as a couple beforehand.
I think maybe the husband grew up there, is the impression I got.
Right. Basically, don't drive yourself to the hospital in inclement weather.
Yeah?
Like, if you call an ambulance, and you know, because it's raining or whatever, and your wife's in labour, they're going to come out. They'll drive you there. If you get into a collision, the ambulance is going to survive that.
Yeah.
In a lot better state than the car would.
I take your point, but I also would say, we're going for net survival as ever. Having a baby isn't necessarily an ambulance call.
No. Okay.
And you could be taking away important resources from someone who really needs it.
Yeah, but that's just hypothetical, isn't it? Like, you could say, what if you shoot at a monster and the bullet misses, but it goes and kills a
Well, no. How about
baby?
this? Like, if I stub my toe right badly, rips the nail out, and I'm going to need stitches.
Yeah.
Should I call an ambulance?
It says that equivalent to
No,
childbirth.
I'm just saying, should I call an ambulance?
Well, no. But like, childbirth is something that necessitates a hospital visit.
Yeah.
And if you're not comfortable driving yourself...
Well, she's not driving herself.
No, as in like being, if you, the husband, aren't comfortable...
It's a taxi trip, Chris. That's what it is.
A taxi trip. Well, then, there you go.
Yeah. He's saying
basically, he was hit... I mean, how do you get your head sliced clean in half?
I took that to be a metaphor.
I don't think it was.
Memory.
I think it was a memory.
Of him stood in front of her.
Yeah. Saying, I think it's going to rain. And then a car sliced his head in half. I don't know. That's the only thing that I could come up with because it's a difficult one. How about you?
I've got two ideas.
Okay.
First of all...
Like an embarrassment of riches over there.
First of all, just be a little more fierce.
Okay.
If someone's like got you cornered, like bite them, scratch at them.
But this is the... What? Who you?
Well, the only dead body, the dog.
Woof for help.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So poo all over yourself.
Well, it did what it could to stay away from her.
Yeah, but it didn't do enough, did it?
Well, yeah.
It's dead.
Yeah.
She won.
You can't change the motivations of a dog.
I'm just saying. Well, he didn't want to die. He wasn't motivated to death.
We have no evidence of that.
All right. The second thought, Chris, is if you can't sleep because you're an insomniac with crippling depression and grief, don't watch horror movies.
Yeah.
That's not going to help matters.
No.
Just put on like SpongeBob or something inane. Because she's watching like slasher movies and all sorts of monster movies.
Well, she's read the Babadook book as well.
Yeah.
So she's got that on her.
She's primed.
Yeah.
Ready to go off.
Yeah. Well, the problem is though that she's watching old movies and the Babadook's appearing within the movie. So like whatever she watches, he's going to be like, she could put fucking Love Actually on.
Yeah.
But he's going to be there dancing with Hugh Grant, isn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
That's what they should have done.
Yeah.
That would have been a better film.
Well, like Be Kind and Rewind, but with the Babadook in it.
No, just
they're driving Miss Daisy and the Babadook's in the back.
Yeah, she watches. Oh, I'm going to go through the IMDb top 250 because I can't sleep. The Shawshank Redemption.
I've had it with these motherfucking Babadooks on this motherfucking plane.
Like Andy Dufresne's kneeling outside of the sewer pipe, like on his knees, thanking the Lord for being out of prison, and like poking his head out of the pipe is the Babadook. That's what I would watch that film. That we should pencil that in for Babadook 2.
When Babadook, what's the quote in Shawshank?
I wish I could say the Babadook went easy on him. I wish I could say that.
Yeah. So don't stay up all night, Chris, watching horror movies.
No.
Which is what we typically would do because this is the podcast.
Yeah, because we're pressed for time. We
leave
always
it too late and have to stay up late. And then don't go to the gym in the morning because you stayed up too late and you can't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning because it's too late because you were watching a movie about Jason Voorhees.
Hello again, Earthlings. It's me, Joe, here to provide a little addendum to that rebroadcast of a How to Survive classic. So now for the real reason Chris isn't here. We've been planning, preparing and shooting our next big YouTube video. Now long-time fans will remember the first video we made back in Halloween of last year, which was a marathon video where we watched the entire Saw franchise while chained to a wall. This video is in a similar vein, but I'll wait until Chris is back in the studio so we can talk about it together. But rest assured, it is a hoot. Something to get excited about. And of course, next week, we are back with our regularly scheduled programming. It will be Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones. It's available on Netflix, so do seek it out if you are interested in that kind of thing, as you probably are. Perhaps you'd like to get in touch with your thoughts on how you'd survive in the Babadook, or next week's movie, Paranormal Activity 5, The Marked Ones. I'm sure you've got a lot of thoughts on that one. The email address is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. If you like what you hear on the How to Survive podcast, maybe you'd like more of it, you can follow us on Twitter @HowToSurvivePod. You can find us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/HowToSurvivePod. You can find us on YouTube, which is youtube.com/HowToSurvivePod. We'll see you back here next week for a reunion of the whole team, a lively discussion of a classic film, Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones. I will love you and leave you with some wise words from my co-host, Chris. Chris, take it away.